All right, Campbell's comments now. Catching up with Adam Bowden from Diamond Creek Farms and Diamond Creek. It is Diamond Creek Farms, isn't it, Adam?
I mean, you could call it whatever you want, but yeah, we have singular, but that's okay. We have multiple farms, so I think it's appropriate to call it farms.
Yeah, no, I get myself confused. I wasn't sure if it was studs or that, but Diamond Creek Farms. So, firstly, thank you for joining me. Thanks for joining me again. We did one of these a year ago, and I'm going to try and do as many of these as I can to keep the word out there. Diamond Creek, you're a massive farm. You've got a massive influence down here in the Southern Hemisphere. Basically, I get a lot of New Zealand content as well as Australian content, and like I was looking at your stallion roster there. I don't know how many. You've got at least 8 stallions standing down here. So you've got a massive influence down here. Is that something you set about to do when you started the farm?
I don't know that it was the number one priority when I first started. It was sort of get my feet wet, but once we kind of got rolling along, that was the next part of the evolution, and started with one or two, and then have built up quite a stallion roster here. And then, we've been lucky to partner with some really, really good people down there. And it's worked, I think, mutually beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, well, definitely. I think you've got a lot of respect. As I said, I do a lot of work in New Zealand. The bottom of the New Zealand island, Invercargill. I mean, there's a race they put on every year. Well, there's a couple of races, but the Diamonds race, I would have had their T-shirt on. They've got the gold carrot T-shirt, but it's definitely not T-shirt worthy here in central Victoria at the minute. But I mean, that's and you do give back to a lot of these communities.
Yeah, we try to. I mean, some of the people that we first did business with have been great supporters of ours, and we've tried to do the same in return. And we've helped kind of build that race up there in Invercargill. And for the first time ever, got to send somebody down there this year. And Caroline had a wonderful experience and got taken care of beautifully. And I think it may end up on our calendar to send either her or some representative of Diamond Creek. I mean, I'd love to come down too. So it's definitely on our radar moving forward.
It's a beautiful part of the world. I've been lucky enough to be the last year, 2 years, travel a lot of it, and it's one of the real pretty parts of the world. Haven't been to North America or any of those parts, so I can't comment on them. But it's just a very, very nice part down there. It's yeah, it's awesome. Very cold when it wants to be, but yeah, other than it's very, very pretty. Want to
Yeah.
go and probably touch on your stallions if you like in a minute, and your race horses and where they're at. One thing I love what you guys do, and from what I've seen on social media, you seem to get bigger and bigger every year, and it seems to be very important, is the open house or your stallion parade open house that you've had just recently, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger each year.
Yeah, it actually started out as a way for us to show the public we're in the center of a small little town there in Pennsylvania, and we would get hate mail in the wintertime that we kept our horses outside when it was snowing and raining, and uh, they called the cops on us a couple times, and so we said we might as well open the doors and show them what we actually do here when the weather turns. And we started with 50 people in year one, and the last 6 or 7 years we've kind of built it up to not only a community event where we show off what we do to the people, but harness racing statewide and really nationally. We had 6, 7, 800 people the last couple of years, and we kind of it's a way to celebrate the staff and celebrate the horses and share with the public what we do. And it's turned into quite an event, and it's sort of taken a life of its own at this point.
It's funny because that's actually what I noticed this year. It was a lot more about the people.
Yeah.
I think last year there was a lot more footage of the stallions and the boys and the parades, if you like, and I think this year it was more about your staff and then also the amount of community engagement you got. So that was deliberate, obviously.
Yeah. Caroline's done a great job kind of building it up from the ground. And like I said, it's a way to pat the staff on the back and let them kind of come front and center and share what they've learned and what they know about the farm. And there's hay rides where they take the public around and teach them about the farm and what we do. And of course, the stallion collections, we kind of let people get up real close and personal with horses like Sweet Lou and Confederate, and then they get to see them process the semen. And we check pregnancies on mares so they can kind of see that process. They get to touch foals, they get to pet horses, and it and free food and free drink. So there's really nothing to complain about.
Does it help? Do you think does it help you? Like you say about hate mail and that, do you get less of that because of it?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of have an open door policy as well, and the public kind of knows that now. So we have people that reach out throughout the year that just want to come out. We've had, you know, engagement pictures and weddings and things like that on farm over the years. Now we've really tried to mesh ourselves with the public. You know, the mayor's been out, the chief of police and the fire chief have been out. You know, we want to be a welcoming part of the community, and I think we've done so.
A very different part of the way businesses are run that I didn't. Like the conversation I had in my ideas, a few of me questions. It wasn't one of them, but it's. I suppose it's probably a different part of what you were probably thinking when you were setting the farm up as well. It wasn't going to be on your radar, I suppose.
Yeah, I think I tend to be a very closed off person personally. These kind of things are difficult for me, but that's kind of helped to broaden my horizons. And you know, public outreach has really taken off for us. We try to be available not only to the public there in Pennsylvania, but our clients as well. I mean, we have probably 2,500 to 3,000 clients on yearlings and mixed horses and the stallions, of course. And it's really taught us to step out of our comfort zone and really be there for people.
Something I think the rest of the industry probably needs to think about a little bit too. In harness racing, especially down here where it's getting smaller and smaller, a way of growing it is actually just exposing it, just getting it out there and getting more people to be able to touch it.
Yeah, I think when you let people be near horses, it's hard not to get to get it in your blood. I know I got 3 young kids, and the more they're around it, the more they're interested in it, and the more they ask questions, and the more they talk about it with their friends, and they ask me questions, and it's great. You have to expose the young people to it in some capacity.
Yeah, definitely. And so I do agree with that because I think everyone can remember the first couple of times you come in touch with a horse and you fall in love with them. They don't all fall in love with racehorses, but they can be any sort of horse. So, yeah, it can be very, very intriguing. Racehorse-wise, last year when I spoke to you, it was a bit later in the season. You had Confederate and Cannibal both up and going and running in all the big races. This year it's a lot earlier. How are your stocks looking this year? You've got your filly whose name I cannot ever get right, Geometrical. Is that how I say it?
Geocentric is one that we bred, but she's trained by Brian Brown and has other ownership now, but she's racing in a big race in Canada. But no, our stable is maybe a touch weaker this year than we would like, but we also retired 2 stallions, 2 homebred stallions. We sold off a couple of the older colts / geldings. Not something that we normally do a lot of. We tend to race mostly 2 and 3 year olds, and so kind of flush the system out and kind of rebuild from the bottom up. I think we have 9 2-year-olds in training right now, and they all seem to be doing what we need them to do at this point. It's still very early. The 3-year-olds, they were all kind of prospects. And then of course we've got the older gelding, Allywag Hanover, who's, you know, kind of the consistent one in the stable right now.
Yeah. So is it flatten you a little bit, I suppose, after the year you had last year, especially with the 2 boys and, you know, and most importantly, I suppose, Confederate right towards the end? Because I mean, you know, you were having a stellar run last year.
I mean, that's one of those years that's kind of hard to replicate. Obviously we'll do our best to replicate it, but, you know, owner of the year, breeder of the year, horse of the year, you know, we bred 2 other divisional winners with Geocentric and Bond. I mean, it was just everything lined up right, and very happy and appreciative and thankful. And, you know, the staff got to celebrate as well. And, you know, we like to share that. We took a whole mess of people down to the Dan Patch Awards in February, kind of pat ourselves on the back and, you know, hopefully use that as a way to retool and try to do it all over again.
Yeah, and keep everyone, I suppose, up and about and go from there. You did have, I saw Confederate's little sister, Davenport, the other day. Looks like it's a nice filly.
Yeah, she's a big Captain Crunch filly. She got injured partway through the 2-year-old season last year. She was off and kind of got a delayed start. And we debated, just because she's so valuable, about whether to breed her or not. And we thought she deserved a chance to come back. And she's come back quite well, and paced a huge back half the other night. Went 50-2. Super green still, still learning the ropes, but I think the second half of the season could be good for her.
Yeah, so that's one to look out for. Looks a nice horse. Does look very, very tall. I saw the pictures. She looks good 16-2, 16-3 hand filly.
Yeah, I don't know that she's that big, but she's definitely a big, tall, long-legged
Yeah.
filly. Confederate's kind of a different type. Maybe stands right at 16 hands, and for me is like the perfect size horse. She's a big, tall, lanky filly, and not typical of the family, really. They tend to be more in the style of Confederate. But he's got three sisters coming, and they're all big, tall, long-legged fillies. I'm not really sure where that comes from, but we'll take it.
You got three sisters to him. Does that frustrate you when you get a horse like him and you go out there and you're hoping for a colt? Does that get you a bit frustrated, or you're just
I
like,
mean, the family's been so good to me. His Grand Dam, Western Montana, was one of the first fillies that I bought back in 2005, and she's given me Pure Country and Grand Teton and Charleston, and then Geothermal, who's produced Confederate. I mean, it's just an embarrassment of riches, really. So I'll take all the fillies I can get.
but you get the odd boy come along, you'd be happy with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's worth so much money to us that I don't know that a colt would be great, just because you compare him to Confederate, and I don't know that that's a fair comparison. So a little run of fillies I'm okay with.
Yeah, it's an interesting way of looking at it, actually. Or then I suppose you also have the option of taking them to sales, and do you sell them or don't you sell them, or do you keep them to race? I suppose you have all those sort of conundrums when it is a colt.
Yeah, the fillies are easy to make that call on, but the colts, yeah, I mean, you could take some money off the table, sell pieces of, go to the sale, sell them all. I like options, and that provides that.
How do you before we get on to the boys, in a way, how do you divide up who goes to sales and who you keep? Because you kept both those horses. Did they go to the sales and not get what you were after, Confederate and Cannibal, or did they not even go
No,
to?
no, both mares are kind of designated. We have two different groups of mares, and we buy them for specific reasons, or breed them. There's a group of mares that we call our homebred mares, and everything gets kept out of those unless there's a reason to sell them. And then there's another group of mares bought specifically for sale purposes, and probably 4-to-1 ratio, something like that. Four sale mares for every homebred mare. We're very specific. They have to meet certain criteria, pedigree wise, looks, conformation, the whole deal. And it's kind of different than what we look for the sale horses. Probably the sale horses, pedigree wise, are maybe a little bit more flashy, but they don't meet what I've kind of identified as what I'm looking for these homebred race horses. And it's paid off in both ways. We're getting paid for the sale horses, and the homebreds are still racing good. So it seems like we're doing something right.
Yeah. Do you aspire to make? This is an easy question in my head. It's not coming out as easy as I thought. Would you like to make a lot more stallions? Is that what you aspire to try to do?
Yeah, I think when I started the farm originally, I was 24 and very naive and thought, "Oh, this will be easy. I'm smarter than everybody else." And yeah, I think you quickly learn that that's not the case. But it's paid off this last couple of years with Cannibal and Confederate being homebred stallions, and it was always the number one goal on the board. And it's something that we are looking to recreate, hopefully regularly, but we'll take it every couple of years, every 5 years, 10 years. But a horse like Confederate, he's probably a once in a decade type horse for us, and maybe even longer. But boy, that pays a lot of bills, I'll say that.
Do you feel a bit for Cannibal in a way, to be overshadowed by such a horse? Like, both horses are terrific horses in their own right.
Yeah, last year, he kind of did everything that we asked of him. And in the back of my mind, he was always coming back this year. And in the fall, Blue Chip approached us and kind of made the case he should be a stallion. And, we thought long and hard about it. And, he deserved that opportunity. He definitely showed that he has that kind of capabilities. And we loved him as a horse. He's a great physical. Pedigree wise, he matches up to a lot of mares. And he did enough to warrant, standing at stud. And our staff did a wonderful job syndicating him and getting a good book of mares in his first crop, and then he's going to travel with Confederate to the Southern Hemisphere and give his go there.
Yeah, and as you say, it's an embarrassment of riches to have the pair of them. Before we get to the stallions, your 2-year-olds coming through. Are there any that we should be looking out for? Or are they still just showing their ways?
Yeah, we're probably a week or two away from qualifying a handful of them. Like I said, we only have 9. And there's a couple of nice pacing colts. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but there's 2 potentially good ones. This year's homebred group begins with the letter F. So there's a couple of them with F names that could be the next good ones. We'll see.
You're not going to give me too much, so we won't. I won't pry, but we'll keep. Everyone will start.
Fusion and Federer are 2 good colts. One's an Always Be Mickey out of our good mare Pure Country, so related to Confederate there, and then the other one is a Captain Treacherous colt from Sweet Lou's family, so and Captain Crunch's family. So get 2 good bred colts, one with Nancy Tactor and one with Brett Pelling, and we've got our fingers crossed.
Yeah, all right. People will start keeping an eye out for them anyway. So hopefully they measure up. And I mean, you guys, I suppose you can evolve how they go, whether they race as 2 and 3-year-olds, or if something goes wrong, you can give them a bit longer time and things like that anyway. I suppose it's not all about 2 and 3-year-olds for you guys, albeit that's what you want to do.
No, I mean, actually, this colt Fusion, he's got an older sister, Always Be Mickey filly named Disney. That has been injured twice now, but has shown tons of promise. And we've kind of given her this 2-year path, and she's working her way back from a second surgery. And we probably wouldn't do that with most horses, but she's a filly from that family. And, she's, like I said, she's shown a ton of promise, and as good as Davenport showed the other day, we think this other filly's a little bit better than that. So, we'll give her this year. And if she stays sound, we'll race her at least at 4 and possibly longer.
Do you have to get that messaging out there, because you are a buying and a selling, a racing and also a selling farm? Do you try to get that message out there, like say with horse with Disney, that the reason she's racing as a 4-year-old is not because we don't think as much of her? It's more or less that she needs the opportunity because she didn't sort of have the right opportunities when she was 2 and 3.
I don't know that it's a messaging thing. Like, our homebreds kind of is an internal thing for us, like externally to the public, at least, we are a sales consignment. We raise horses for the public, and we do as good a job as we possibly can. And that's sort of another business. I don't know that we necessarily make it super public. I mean, Caroline does a good job, showing that off on social media, but I don't know that we owe anybody explanations for those kind of things.
And you're known as a selling farm, but it's just one of those ones. I know down here, a lot of places, they evolve their businesses, and they have trouble when they put horses up for sale. And yearling sales people say, oh, they're only selling the ones that are no good. They want to keep their race horses and things like that. And sometimes people ask me, and I don't know the answer on how they can change it, other than to say that the horses are for legitimate sale. That's pretty much all you can do.
Yeah, we've run into that over the years. You kind of get labeled as cherry pickers and things like that. And, I don't know what to do with that. I mean, we spend money on horses for specific reasons, and we put certain horses up for sale, and we don't put other horses up for sale. And, we understand there's consequences to that, and we can live with those. They don't always love the perception, but I don't know that I'm willing to get out there and meet everybody where they are and have to explain myself. I mean, it's our business. We do the best job that we possibly can. And these kind of interviews are probably good. Like I told you earlier, we buy mares specifically for homebred, and we buy other mares specifically for sale. And that's just the way we do
Mm-hmm.
we've done business for the last 15 years.
Yep. No, I think that's one of the things. Stick to what you plan. Sometimes it might be a
Yeah.
slow burn. You might have a bad year, but other years it'll be better. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Go from there. Right. Stallions. How many stallions do you have on your books? I should have probably counted them up. It's about 14, 15.
Yeah, 14.
That
And
wasn't.
then we do.
I have got a computer open up there, and I thought, geez, I should have counted that before, but I just had a quick skim, so yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, no, good. We have stallions in a couple different states, and our home bases are Pennsylvania and Kentucky, where the majority of them are. But we've partnered with Joe McLeod at Sugar Valley for stallions in Ohio, and that's been a wonderful partnership there. Joe's a great guy and has done wonders for preg rates for our stallions. There's 4 of them there at Sugar Valley. And then just recently we partnered with Blue Chip on Cannibal to stand him in New York. And again, they've been wonderful partners. They've been willing to meet us where we need them to be. And they obviously bring a great track record and expertise as well. So we'd love to expand that part of it. We love doing it ourselves, obviously, and managing them. But for expansion purposes, like partnering with these satellite operations, people that do a good job and are reputable in their states, we're happy to do that as well.
It's very different in North America to Australia, because you guys, you have to be in a certain state for a period of time to be eligible for the sire stakes. And I would imagine that could be a bit of a trick. Gets back to what you were just saying then, because if certain states, their sire stakes programs get better than other states, you nearly need to set a farm up there, don't you? Otherwise, or get these relationships with these other farms where you can send your stallions that you want to into those states to stand.
Yeah, and it's tough because each state obviously has different requirements for residency for mares or length of time that stallions need to be there. And like you said, things change all the time. The money available is a constant battle between politicians and the horsemen in every state. And I think we're learning that if we can be flexible and available to manage the horses, but use the opportunities that exist in these states, we can be better suited to put stallions in places that already exist versus the brick and mortar farms of trying to start one up ourselves. I mean, we tried that years ago, and it's a challenge. It's a big enough challenge with just the 2 in Pennsylvania and Kentucky, but we've got great staff again in both places. And behind the scenes, our office and admin team are top notch and really understand what we're trying to do. And partnering with these farms have been great for our growth, and we hope it continues.
In Kentucky, it's very different, isn't it? Now it keeps evolving and evolving. They're trying to really grow the product there, getting on the front foot. I actually facilitated an interview late last year with Kenny James, and they're forward thinking about the way they approach the sire stakes and doing it a bit differently.
Yeah, I think it was about bringing back the mare population at first, and then now over the last couple of years, they've really tried to reinvigorate people standing stallions in the state and increasing the sire stakes fund to accommodate that. And we've been at the forefront of that by standing chimpanzee here, and it's actually worked out well for us and the state of Kentucky to have him here. And his first crop of 2-year-olds are just starting now, and hopefully we'll see some big ones racing at the Red Mile, and that pays off, and then it brings hopefully more horses, more stallions.
I saw a post the other day, and it may have been one of yours, so I'm not sure, but anyway, in the post it was one of the studs, and they were saying about that to be able to have the horses dual acceptable, both in Kentucky and then I think it was New York, but I'm not 100% sure who it was. But yeah, being able to get them dually eligible for 2 sire stakes programs.
Yeah, there's so much money to race for in the sire stake programs, and Kentucky offers that opportunity where you can be Kentucky and another state. Like you said, New York, New Jersey, Ontario, Pennsylvania, Ohio. I mean, there's so many options with Kentucky, and it gives the people buying the yearlings a lot more options, where to race, how often. Like you said, the money to race for it in the sire stakes is incredible right now. And we're kind of on the upswing of that and trying to take advantage of it.
Must be good to be there and be a part of something that is going the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, we locked in on Pennsylvania maybe 10 or 12 years ago and opened up a farm there to kind of take advantage of their slots program, and that's worked out to our benefit. And I think to Pennsylvania's as well. It's increased competition, which is never a bad thing, and we've kind of got a foothold there, and it's been good for us, and like I said, good for the state.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll touch on a couple of the ones coming down to Australia. FaceTime Bourbon, I think he's got frozen semen still available down here, or not, maybe not. Look on your
FaceTime, that would be above my pay grade. We only handle the US.
Yeah.
And we've got limited amounts the last couple of years. We're looking to expand that. I mean, I think with the influx of European influence here and down there for you guys, it's something that's needed. The trotting breed is kind of cornered itself and is looking for something else, and he seems to be that kind of horse that could be that option. So, like I said, I don't know what's happening with FaceTime down there. We just handle the US.
Yeah, I think he's with Harasta Trotters, and I'm not 100% sure he's still on the books there or not either. But do you like the European trotting coming into the American lines and changing it up?
I do, and we've kind of supported that. I bought a share in FaceTime Bourbon. God, it's probably been 6 or 7 years. We sent mares overseas to be bred. Limited success. I've got a FaceTime Bourbon 2-year-old filly that we, fingers crossed, looks like a good one at this point. And other people have had it. Tony Alania's got a nice 3-year-old named Winter Soldier. And Gawky Svansted's got another FaceTime Bourbon that looks pretty good as well. So with limited success, Europe influence has been good. I mean, obviously Love You has been a key cog in all of that in the US and down under. So go Europe.
Do you like the trotters?
Me, I like the Pacers better. I mean, it seems like everybody loves the trotters. They're a pain in my ass. The Pacers are predictable, and pedigree matters way more. And we feel like we have a good gauge as to how to evaluate them and limit the variables as best we can. And the trotters are all over the map. And I mean, it's so much fun to watch a good trotter. Don't get me wrong, but I love my Pacers.
Yeah, from a business point of view, your Pacers, you sort of know where you're going and can
Exactly.
go from there. We will touch on one of the trotters in a minute. Marseille, is it? Is that how you pronounce that? I'm not sure about that horse, but
you might have butchered that one worse than anybody else. We'll go with Marseille.
Marseille. Okay, Marseille. Don't worry if it's going to be.
we'll call it close enough.
If Brett Coffey's watching this, he's waiting for me to butcher anything. I actually butchered Always Be Mickey's name for 1 year. Don't worry about that. I was in all sorts of trouble the first year he came down. Marseille. Marseille.
Like French.
Marseille. It's a horse I don't know a lot about.
Yeah, no, he's a horse that we bought into when he was finished racing, kind of looking for a cheaper type trotter to put in Ohio to fill a void there. And he bred 113 mares in his first crop. And then, of course, in come all the trotters to Ohio the following year. So he had a big downswing there. But they're pretty. They're going to race this year for the first time at 2. And again, the 2-year-olds are just qualifying now. There's mixed reviews right now. We'll see what happens. But like I said, he fills a niche there in Ohio right now. And fingers crossed.
Yeah. Right. We'll touch on the ones we know about. Always Be Mickey. He must be wrapped in the job he's done. I mentioned there before about New Zealand. He won one of the big 2-year-old races already in New Zealand. He actually might have won your race.
He did, yeah. Was it Rubira, or if I'm pronouncing that name right? Maybe I butchered that.
How'd you say it? I didn't hear it.
Rubira?
Yeah, that's close enough. I'm not going to question you. Don't worry about that. So it's all good. But he does.
The guys that own him, I apologize.
No, I think you're pretty close. He does an awesome job, doesn't he?
Yeah. He's the type of horse that if you're breeding to race, he might be at the top of your list. He's a home run type horse. I mean, I talked with Bob Bonney, who owns part of him. here, and we both say the same thing. He is the home run horse. I mean, he's going to get you the Breeders' Crown horse, the Dan Patch divisional winner. He may not give you the Sire Stakes horse or the Stallion Series horse here, but he certainly, if you get the right one, is going to hit it out of the park.
Yeah. Bettor's Wish is not coming back to Australia. He is as frozen semen, but in the flesh, he won't be coming back. Unfortunately, he got ill last time, which was unfortunate for him and the owners and everyone involved.
Yeah, like you said, unfortunately, had a little hiccup there, which affected his season, or at least part of it. He's come back and he's been great for us, but the ownership groups decided to send him off to get frozen as soon as the season's over, and then send that down there and hope he's okay long term.
Yeah, and look after him. Will that be the plan? Like, will he ever come back down south, or you think he'll stay there most of the time now?
I mean, again, I'm not involved in the ownership of him. We just stand him. But from what I understand, I think if this is successful, they'll just continue to do this.
Yeah, and go from there. His 2-year-olds,
yeah.
They're 2-year-olds as well, aren't they? He hasn't had.
Yeah, he's got 3-year-olds. He had the New Jersey champion last year, and Better Is Nice, who's come back maybe a hair slower than they would have liked. He had a little hiccup there early, but the 2-year-olds are Pennsylvania eligible for the first time, so they'll have to compete on the big stage against the big boys, and we'll see how that goes. But the ownership group has been very supportive of him with like very good mares over his career, so he'll have every chance quality wise.
It makes it for him. We'll go Cannibal and Confederate. Obviously, are you excited about them coming down south, or do you get anxious and nervous about them both going to be standing at Cobbity Farm?
Yeah, I think I entered into the fall thinking they're too valuable to us to send, and I thought I'll just send Frozen down. It was not something that we've done in the past. You know, I've been a big proponent of sending the horses. Traveling through both countries a number of times, you get the feel from the breeders that they want to see and touch these horses, and they would much rather see them in the flesh than to get the frozen. But you know, these horses have been very valuable to us and have been good to us. And like I said, I entered in thinking it was just going to be frozen, and the numbers that were thrown around were like way above what I expected. And you know, we ended up settling on Cobbity, and like I said, so far that arrangement's worked out good. They sent somebody up to kind of monitor Confederate and Cannibal early in the spring, and that was a great partnership there, and something that I hadn't really crossed my mind, but we may do in return or in reverse and send one of our people down there, because I'm sure they picked stuff up from us and we could pick stuff up from them to see what we can do better.
Yeah, and I'm sure you'll be anxious and happy when the plane touches down and all of those things. It must be a nervous time when you see the boys leave. You're going to have so many of them leave going down south. It must be a nervous time for you.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of years ago, it was down by the seaside that struggled and colicked in quarantine and had issues at the start of his season, and he's recovered and been great since. But yeah, I think you hear horror stories and you think the worst, but I think we've learned over time that the stallions that travel are as much your guys' horses as they are our horses. And I think we forget that. You know, they spend just as much time at the farms down there as they do with us here. And they develop relationships with them just like we do. And I think that's lost a lot of times. Communication can always be better. And we're going to strive to do that. We're going to ask our partners to do the same. But, you know, we're sharing top horses, and we can all learn from each other. And I think it's been good so far.
Yeah, that's actually that's half what this is about as well, getting inside information on him. Captain Crunch, he hit the ground running beautifully this year at the start of the year. That horse's name's left me. Ukraine, I got it actually. Winning first up for Bobby Butt in New Zealand. And he's doing a good job down here with his 2-year-olds already, and they're 3-year-olds, I think, in America. Well, they are.
Yeah, the 2-year-old Crunch was massively disappointing. I mean, our expectations were that he'd come out flying. He was a good 2-year-old himself, won the Breeders' Crown, then came back and won North America Cup at 3. And we were just kind of left with our jaws on the ground, kind of picking up the pieces after he bred 3 full books, 4 full books. And it was like, what the hell are we missing here? And luckily Gem Quality came and won the Breeders' Crown at the end of the year. But, there was a come back to earth type feeling. We lowered his fee. We got aggressive in marketing him and selling him. And, we kind of expected a total drop off where we were going to get not many. And we ended up, we'll get close to 100 mares booked to him this year. And we've got a big influx over the last couple of weeks. The 3-year-olds have come back, kind of like we hoped the 2-year-olds would be. They've had a bunch of winners, and they've been playing right there with the good horses, and we like to see that. So there's still life there, and like you said, the 2-year-olds there seem to be better than our 2-year-olds were, so that's a good sign. He's got great support over the last couple of years down there as well. So I think the future's much brighter now than it was 6 or 8 months ago for him.
He's sort of a horse that on his breeding, he shouldn't fail. When you see a horse like I've got Sweet Lou's hat on and things like that, he's got all the ticks of the latest crops. He's got the out crosses, the in cross. He's got all these ticks, so he should just work.
For Captain Crunch, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it was so shocking to us that he missed with that first group of 2-year-olds. And they ended up in the right spots. They were bought by the right people, and hopefully they didn't get burned too much, and they'll come back and support him again, because we bred good mares to him. Confederates Dam has a 3-year-old and a yearling by Captain Crunch, and we've got another one out of a good homebred mare for us. So like, we supported him through the first handful of years, and likely will continue to do so. And the market's kind of responded here late in the season with some good mares, so that's good.
And I think there was a few 2-year-olds qualify. I think I saw on your website earlier, and when I was looking through it, that there's a few 2-year-olds already qualified. So
yeah, and that's kind of nice to see, because last year we didn't have that, so it's good to see early.
Creatine flies under the radar, trotter. So I know where you stand with the trotters, but flies under the radar down here, doing an awesome job down here. Pops winners up all the time, nice winners, and also just lovely young horses.
Yeah, he's, again, a homebred horse the funny story with him is he got a hawk infection as a yearling. He was scheduled to go to the sale. His hawk blew up. He ended up in the clinic for a long time. Couldn't sell him. At that time, we weren't racing that many horses. I brought a bunch of trainers out to the farm, trying to sell them privately, cheap numbers. And last 5 or 6 people through the door, I offered, just take the horse from me for free. You can have the horse. I just don't want him. And we sent him to Maine, where I'm from originally, in the Northeast, and trained by a longtime horseman. And he didn't have the horse 2 weeks before he said, like, this might be the best horse I've ever sat behind. And we sent him from there down to Bob Stewart, and he did a great job and won a ton of races. He ends up with Jimmy Takter at the end of his career before he's injured. And, he's kind of battled stuff his whole entire life. A suspensory injury ended his career, and it's kind of affected his stallion career. He's been unsound kind of the whole time. And, we battle it here, they battle it there. He's one of those hard luck horses, but the horses that he does produce are good. I mean, he gave Juju B in his first crop, who was a great horse, and lots of nice little horses running around the tracks here, and obviously down there as well. But I think, if I'm being completely honest, like, his stallion career is probably in the twilight, unfortunately, even though he's not that old, soundness wise.
It's quite funny though. You just read the results, and if you wrote them down every time there was a winner, you'd probably get a shock. But he gets no fanfare either. Like, he's a funny sort of horse in that there's always those sorts of horses that happens to, and he just seems to be that horse. So
he's a favorite for us. Obviously being a homebred that made a couple $1 million. He raced in Europe, and he'll end up living out a great life here. But I think he's probably a couple weeks away from us. He may be done at the end of this year and kind of live out a quiet life after that.
That's sort of sad for him, but yeah, it was one that I was actually keen to talk to you about. The next one, Rocky, or Down by the Seaside, of course, stands at Woodlands. 100 winners, individual winners here down in Australia and New Zealand just recently. And I know you guys have a real soft spot for him.
Yeah, he's been good to us. He's kind of one of those horses that we've climbed the ladder with. You know, we raced him or we were part of the ownership group at 3, and he was the first good horse that we decided on this like partnership with a satellite operation, and Joe McLeod was the perfect person to do that with at Sugar Valley. You know, we've raced a couple of really good Seasides. He has By the Missile right now. He breeds full books. His fertility is incredible. He's a great horse to be around. He's done wonders here. He's done wonders there. Obviously, I just read that article you mentioned, you know, having the 100th winner already. He breeds big books. He's just kind of a cool horse, and the trajectory he's on is incredible, and it's just kind of fun to be part of him.
He leaves nice horses all around. Lovely mares down here, very fast, very strong mares. You know, which is exciting for our industry, I think, because they're putting more and more mares races on, and some of those horses like Mantra Blue, and there's another one whose name's just left me at the minute in New Zealand, but they. I'm in all sorts of trouble. I can see her face, but I can't see the trainer's face. Stephen Reed trains her. But anyway, they're fast, strong fillies that look like they've got a real future in open racing.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And then, you know, once they end up in the breeding shed, you know, they get crossed underneath some of these young horses like Confederate or Sweet Little. But yeah, we're doing a lot of that breeding here with hopes that pays off as well with these very fast Seaside mares.
Father Patrick, it can be very fickle down here. I imagine it's the same down there. For some reason, people went off him last year at the yearling sales, and I don't know why, because he just keeps leaving winners here, there, and everywhere. What's his name? Ken Brecken really backed him to the hilts, and he had the first 4 home in a group race the other day. I think the first 2 across the line were both by Father Patrick. I mean, he does an awesome job, doesn't he?
He does, and you know, it was nice. He got Green Shoe in his first crop. That was kind of a limited number here, and he's kind of like you said. He's been up and down. You know, he'll go through a period where you're like, "Where are the Father Patricks?" And then, you know, all of a sudden, here they come. They've been tricky at the sales over the years. You know, he'll go through a big boom, and they'll pay a bunch of money for some at the sale, and then those ones don't turn out good, so then they come off them the following year. But he's very consistent. He's a great horse to be around. He's fertile, which is very nice for us. He leaves good horses. And, you know, you're seeing an uptick now. He's doing a great job with his 3-year-old group. He's got another good group of 2-year-olds behind him. You know, a bunch of them have already started and won. And, you know, he has a couple of crops in the pipeline too that are good. He's just kind of, he's our steady horse.
So that happened in America too, where people just went off them for whatever reason 1 year at the yearling sales.
Yeah, and like I said, I think there's 2 separate times where we've kind of scratched our head post sale and been like, what did we miss here? Because, you know, it could be a new horse, you know, like Walner comes along and they come off Father Patrick, or, you know, the next big horse comes along, but, you know, he consistently throws winners.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. They do it on a few horses down here, and I thought it might have only been Southern Hemisphere thing, and not being disrespectful to my Kiwi friends because I've got so many of them, but the Kiwis they can get a set on a stallion and just say, well, you know, actually this bloke copped it a few years ago, and we'll get to him in a sec, and basically they don't want them, and then they start winning, and then
it's the same in the States. It's the same here.
Yeah. That's cool. Chimpanzee, this is one also I wanted to ask about because he was advertised that he was going to be down here as frozen semen. Those advertisements seem to disappear. Where is he at?
Yeah, so we syndicated him for the first time. He was a tricky horse to breed early in his career, and we made some major changes to him, and we've since treated him like a thoroughbred where he gets collected multiple times a day and every day.
Yep.
So he'll go 2 times a day, 6 days a week. And he seems to handle that probably better than going every other day. And we can't explain why, but he's a happier horse that way. His semen looks better and his mares are better, and we can breed more. and more mares getting foal. So that worked out good. We syndicated him. The original owners are very involved in his career. Two Swedish guys, Courant and SRF, and they've been wonderful partners of ours, and they've kindly asked that Europe is very important to them, obviously, with them being there, and with Frozen available, he bred a tremendous number over there. We thought we could do both, and we kind of entered into an agreement with some partners in the Southern Hemisphere, and kind of before we got the deal signed, last minute, they came in and were like, no, we need more semen for Europe, and that deal kind of fell apart last minute. Unfortunately, they announced it before the ink was dry, but it is what it is, and we'll find other horses for them in the future.
It's very very influential, isn't it? Europe, obviously, with the trotters, because there are only the trotters, but supply and demand. If there is a good horse, they want them in Europe, don't they?
Yeah, and those kind of horses, with him having that European base of original ownership, and Frozen was available there kind of before it was available here, before he was available here, and they get locked in on those horses, and it's kind of hard to come off.
Yeah, so he may come down south one day, but right at the minute it won't happen. It'll just depend on what.
Yeah, we kind of kicked the can down the road. They wanted to see, make sure that there was enough there to cover the demand that is likely to happen. I think they bred 155 mares or something like that in Europe.
Wow.
With demand for more, and that was basically all the semen that we could have provided last fall, and we'll go after it again this year with hopes that there is some availability in the future.
Very good. That's a huge number. I mean, can they open books? They can do as many as they like in Europe.
Yeah, because I think it's in a bunch of different countries. I think they cover a lot of Scandinavia and then the middle part of Europe there as well.
Yeah. All right. Heston Blue Chip, he's available as Frozen semen still, I think, with Coverty. Am I right? I might be wrong. You're not sure?
That again he's a lot like Better's Wish. He's owned by Winback and Eric Cherry, and we stand the horse for them. And so again, we wouldn't have a lot of information as to the deals, the stallion deals, unless we're needed. But he's a great horse to be around, and he's done a bang up job here with. He's been bred to good mares because of Eric Cherry, and he surprisingly, he's a horse that we have on farm, and he might breed 50 or 60 mares when he probably should breed more like 100 or 120 based on his production. But for some reason, we can't seem to get people to lock in on him.
Which must be disappointing in that sense. Pebble Beach, son of Seaside, second season or third season here in Alabama.
Yes, he'll be entering. He's finishing his second season here, and then he'll go down there for his second. But he was first in Kentucky here. He bred a full book of 140, and then there were some rules up in the air here in Kentucky that we weren't quite thrilled with. We made the decision to move him, and then eventually they locked back in on what we were hoping they would do, but it was a little too late. So he moved to Ohio, stand with his dad there, Seaside, at Sugar Valley, and he's going to breed another full book. And I think there's rave reviews about the foals. I mean, we've probably seen 40 or 50 of them so far, and I mean they are pretty special looking. He's a sharp little guy, and he seems to be stamping his horses with the same good looks. So kind of excited about that.
They're hard to market, those horses, in that second and third years before they hit the track, aren't they?
Yeah, and I think that's why here, for instance, the syndications are so important. We sold 40 or 50 shares in him in his first crop when he first went to stud, and that kind of helps in years 2, 3, and 4. But we've got a really good team here, a couple of good guys and girls here in the office that do a great job selling. They're constantly, meeting breeders, going to the farms, talking to them on the phone, making sure that they have what they need. And that's really benefited these kind of stallions over the last couple of years.
Yeah. Sweet Lou, I'll keep going in alphabetical order. The last one we'll probably touch on for a bit longer anyway, but what a rock star he's been. I know the guys at Woodlands love him. I was fortunate enough, I went down there at the end of the breeding season this year and was able to video Bettor's Delight for the last time in the champion stand. But Lou was there. He's just a professional horse to collect. He's a professional horse to be around. And his numbers are just staggering. He's third here behind Bettor's Delight and Art Major on the all-age sires list at the minute. He's just doing a massive job down here and, headed up by Cannibal and Confederate up there in the US.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. He's another one of those horses that's kind of climbed the ladder the hard way. He started at 7,500 here. He's now at 20,000. He's at the top of his game, and he's making stallions now. And that's a pretty cool thing to be part of. I mean, the Burke group and especially Mark Weaver, they've just been massive supporters of this horse. And, he kind of pushed us to get outside of our comfort zone and breed good mares to the horse, even when it was more of a long shot than a sure thing. And he's been championing the horse from the beginning. And the Woodlands team has done an incredible job with the amount of mares they bred to him and the people that have supported him down there and up here. And, it's paying off in spades now.
It's sort of exciting to see what will happen, because we're talking about this last time, because once his fillies start going to the stud, because he's an outcross. So you got these fillies, so you can go to pretty much to anyone with these fillies as well. I know there's a couple already leaving winners, but it's going to be an exciting next phase going forward as to him as a broodmare sire as well.
Yeah, you start getting excited about that. We have some young fillies that are starting to make like the next set of champions, hopefully. And they're different types, but I think that's probably a good thing. And like you said, they can cross over just about everything. I mean, we've got some Pappy Robs and some Down by the Seasides and Captain Treacherouses and Huntsvilles and everything else on top of this. And it doesn't seem to matter which stallion is there. They're good looking horses and they look fast at this point. I mean, time will tell, obviously, but he could leave his mark on the breed here and there.
Has he exceeded what you were expecting? I mean, you always dream, and so I think probably your dream was for him to be as good as what he is. But has he probably exceeded it, because he is an unusually bred horse, if you like, especially for down under, because most of ours follow certain lines. Has he exceeded what your expectations were?
No, I think he exceeded the expectations here. I think like I said, probably the only person he hasn't exceeded expectations on is Mark Weaver, who always believed that this was the type of horse that he could be. They supported him with a ton of mares. He's been integral in the success of getting top quality breeders to support the horse. They race a bunch of them. They've had tremendous success racing a bunch of them. We've had success racing a handful of them as well.
Yeah.
He is just that horse, as great as Down by the Seaside has been for us. This guy's been even better. And, I think partly because he gave us Confederate and Cannibal as well. He's a little bit more special than the other ones.
It was interesting when you said half a dozen. I'm thinking, geez, I can rattle off three that go pretty good, actually.
Yeah,
he has done a very, very good job for you. And he's a beautiful horse. And they're easy to sell in a way in a yearling sales because he's got so much bling. So if you can't get a horse home by the wife, with all that bling on him, you're in all sorts of trouble anyway. So he does a great stamp, and he's really changing, I think, the way a lot of people look at stallions down here in the Southern Hemisphere. Everyone's so keen to get a Sweet Lou in their barn, in their breeding barn, and in their racing stables.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, and he's got such a great personality too. I mean, he's the center of attention at our open house. He's the center of the collections that we do for the public. I mean, we cram 125 people into the breeding shed, and he's just a rock star there, and he knows what he's supposed to do always, and he's an easy horse to be around, and he passes that on to his offspring in a lot of ways.
I saw that last year, but earlier on, this was one thing I'm glad you brought this back up. Was Confederate the other? You said you showcased two stallions. Was Confederate the other one?
Yeah.
A maiden stallion, basically, or a horse that hasn't served a season yet.
And he showed off a little bit. He ended up on his hind 2 feet and was rummaging around in the air for a little bit. But he's so easy as well. Has a lot of those same qualities, and maybe we didn't have 100 people, maybe there were 75 or 80 there for Confederate, but he did a great job too. So
I encourage people. I don't know if they've been put up this year, but last year I saw Sweet Lou, and I encourage people to go back through your social medias and find it. And marketing, I know there'd be a lot of, we have OH&S, we have lots of issues over here. They'd be cringing when they saw it, but geez, I reckon it's a great way of.
it's great, yeah.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to be at quite a few collections, including Better's Delight, like and be able to watch and video him. And it is, yeah, it's very different. I must say, it's a cool part of our sport, that's for sure. And then the last horse, Tactical Approach. First time you've had an American Horse of the Year, not Trotter of the Year either, but an American Horse of the Year coming down south. How was this decision to make? Must have been a bit nerve-wracking as well.
Yeah, I've always wanted to put a trotter in the flesh in the Southern Hemisphere, and we've been approached a handful of times over the years with horses that we were standing, but they had come too late to the party. Europe always seems to be first on everybody's mind, and I was like, all right, here's our opportunity to do so. The original owners were keen to do it, maybe a little bit different, which made it a lot easier. And we got approached by Albar and Nevliar to do it, and it was kind of a no brainer when we sat with Brett in the fall, and kind of hammered out a deal all in a very, very short period of time, and kind of excited about. Maybe more excited about him going down than just about anybody else.
Yeah. I know, speaking to Brett, I think if he wasn't at the airport, he might have been on his way to the airport when you rang him and sort of said that, look, we might have a deal. And basically by the time you're coming home, the deal was done. It was that easy and quick a deal to do. That must be great to be able to do those sorts of things so quickly.
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to the partners that we have down there. They've been great to work with. They've been accommodating, and we've tried to do so in return. And I think it makes sometimes at least the prelim negotiations very smooth and easy. And that was kind of a handshake deal. Brett was, by phone or by text, and it was like, all right, we got a deal, and get home. Let's write this thing up and lock it down.
Yeah, which is exciting. And it's exciting, very, very exciting for us down here, I think, also to have his lines coming in here, and he's going to be in the flesh. I'm sure people will be flocking to see him and just see how he's built, because that's one of the great things about these stallions, I think, too. Confederate, Cannibal will be in the same boat when people physically get to see them, the sort of style of horse they are, if you like, as racing stock, because we see the videos, but you don't necessarily see what sort of horse they are, and be able to see them here in the flesh is pretty important.
Yeah, and I think for us too, Tactical Approach was that horse that, he had kind of done everything when we were investigating him. And then you go look at him in the flesh and you're just kind of blown away. He is quite a specimen. And if people are questioning whether to breed to him or not, you have to go see him in the flesh. He is as nice a stallion as we have physically. He kind of blows you away. Kind of big, tall, long-legged, like perfectly balanced kind of horse, and great temperament, and libido's been great, and semen's been good. So, at this point, we've got no complaints at all. Kind of, like I said, very excited about his opportunities down there.
It is one of the pictures in your gallery underneath him. I actually brought his page up just then. The picture where the foot is behind, I forget the driver's name, Varenne. It's actually behind his bum. Like his back foot is actually.
Yeah, it's just stride is incredible.
Yeah. It's out the back of the sulky. Like, yeah, if the other horse had a forward stride, they could have touched feet. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is awesome. And again, I imagine you're nervous. So how many? So there'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stallions will be getting on the plane coming down south. So that will be a very nervous day. Do you get notified when they land and things like that?
Yeah, like I said, Caroline's in touch with IRT. Great relationship with them and the people down under. So from the time they leave our farm, I think they're going to leave around July 10th or 11th this year, until they land down there. Like, we're getting either daily updates or every other day updates, because, like you said, this will be the first year that we send this many horses, and the amount of money we're sending on that plane this year is incredible. Knock on wood, cross my fingers, and hold my breath.
I must say, from a person down south, thank you to you guys, because these bloodlines increase our racing product. And as a person trying to market and sell the industry, we need these bloodlines. We need these, current lines, and like a horse-like tactical approach. Like, we're going to get access to him as early as what you guys are, albeit 6 months apart. But we can't get it any earlier than that, and that will only increase our racing product and what we have down here, and what we're able to showcase and showcase to the world how great a sport harness racing is.
Yeah, we love it so much that we're going to send some mares down there. I think there's a couple of mares that are going to leave in July to go to the Stallions there in the Southern Island, and then probably another 4 more in the fall, and probably another 4
I told you I'm a hat man. There's Arden Lodge there, so I do actually have his hat.
We love them. Yeah, but I think we're going to expand our operation to encompass the Southern Hemisphere as well. So we're going to send mares in that direction versus the other way around. I think we're going to plan on bringing, somewhere between 10 and 20 mares here over the next, 4 to 5 years, and, use our stallions to do it, and either race or sell to the marketplace as well. So I have loved my experience down there, and the staff that have been down there over the years have really glommed onto it as well. And so it's part of our expansion process, mares first, and then who knows, maybe stallions.
Well, okay. And then you're already sending the stallions. So technically the stallions are first, but this was the part I was going to get to, and you've sort of actually been cheeky. Bricks and mortar, or would you be continuing what you're doing? Is there some chance you would set up a stud down here?
I think the long-term goal would be yes. That would be what we would want to do.
Wow.
Now, whether we use existing places like we do Sugar Valley and Blue Chip here, or if we actually set up a physical place, that's kind of up for debate. But I think we look at it like there's plenty of opportunities. When everybody else tends to be looking negatively about an industry, I'm kind of the opposite. I tend to be a contrarian. So I think there's a niche to be filled. I'm going to probably try to fill it. So it's definitely part of our 5 and 10 year plan.
Adam, I love that, because I'm the same. I try and make this sport what it actually is, and to be able to embrace it. I think that's exciting news, and it's going to be super exciting for anyone thinking, whether they should or shouldn't be breeding. If a farm like yours is looking to expand down here, we definitely should be breeding, and we've got to continue to breed horses.
I hope so, because like I said, we plan on bringing somewhere in the around 20 mares down over the next, whatever I said, 3 to 5 years, and if it's successful, we could look to do bigger numbers than that as well.
Could we see Diamond Creek colors racing down here?
That would probably be, possibly. Yeah, let's leave the door open.
Bring you could have kept Confederate and Cannibal Racing and brought them down here.
Yeah, right. I don't know about that right now, but maybe some of their offspring.
Big news. Anyway, I'm pretty well, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. You did say nothing was off the table, and I wasn't expecting that to come out of you. But thank you very much for that one. That'll get a few people sitting up, that's for sure. The reason I was able to get in touch with you a year ago is actually through the VDM, the Vincent Delaney Memorial, and it's coming around again very, very shortly. I'm actually going to be there this year, but you guys still supporting it. It's something you guys are very, very passionate about, supporting and supporting racing there in Europe with the Pacers, England and Wales.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Derek came to us a long number of years ago and was like, it was a mutual friendship almost immediately, and it was his passion is hard to not be drawn into, and he's the type that makes you believe that he's going to do something big. And so we were huge supporters from the beginning. Caroline helps him out. She goes every year. We're sending 2 more people this year. Yeah. So just it's been a wonderful relationship, and we hope it continues into the future.
Yeah, I'm excited about going. I think it's August 10 and 11 is the race meet, and I'm pretty excited about going. And as you said, there's going to be so many people there. I think they've got a couple of American TV stations going to be there as well. So it's just continuing to get bigger and bigger. And this year it's actually in England at Wolverhampton, so it's going to be a bit different, not out in a field, but at a proper racetrack. So it's going to be pretty exciting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it should be good. And our team is excited. Like I said, we're sending 3 people over there, and my wife and I went years ago, and we're looking to go back at some point. It just happens to be on the same weekend that our kids go back to school every year. But one year we'll have to prioritize that over our kids.
Nah, look after your kids. Plenty of time to go. Plenty of time to go race means you've got to look after your kids. You were at swimming training last year. I remember doing it at that time. Yeah, it's always a lot easier. Adam, thank you very, very much. Great insight. You did say nothing was off the table, so I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me the time. The jacket. Can't find me light blue shirt hat. I do have Cannibals, but I've lost Confederates and the light blue hat. But I will find them. I just don't know where they go. But really appreciate it. Appreciate your honesty, and mate, I look forward to you coming down south with the Diamond Creek Farm. I think it's going to be exciting. You're already down here with so many stallions anyway, but even more of
we may come in. There's that slot race, right, that they announced for you're buying slots and for the drivers and that World Driving Championship. I think Nancy Tactor and I are going to team up and buy a spot, and so maybe I'll have to come down for that.
I'm privy to some stuff, and I'm not allowed to say some stuff, but that'll be pretty exciting. See, that's the one in Queensland, of course, the drivers where you bring your driver down and stay for 2 meetings. So that'll be good in that sense. So the Creek will have to get me there for that. Then I can tell them that one. There's also some pretty nice racing down in Victoria at the same time with the Great Southern Star. And the Hunter Cup as well. So it's a good time to be in Australia, actually, and a good time to
I've never been during that time of the year, so I'm kind of looking forward to it.
I remember Jody Jamison, he said to me he wanted to experience a 40-degree day because of being a Canadian, and I kept telling him, no, we got a 30, I think we got a 33 or a 34, and Jody said, I'm out, I don't want, all he wanted to do was experience a 40, and I said, you don't. Got to 33, and he's like, no, that'll do me, I'm done. So, but yeah, it is exciting. I think it's a great concept. I'm glad that it's touched you guys in America too, so that's well done to the guys in Queensland. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, very good.
Adam, thank you. Can talk to you all day. I've spoke to you for an hour and 10 minutes. I really do appreciate your time, mate. Thank you very much.
Anytime. Talk to you later. Appreciate it.